I hate to sound cliche, but Owlboy is a game that really strikes a chord with me. Growing up with a disability, haha, yeah, I'm on the spectrum, Vale's got the autismo, go on, have a laugh, anyway. Growing up on the spectrum mostly revolved around me being a bit of a loner, being very quiet, being anxious about trying new things, meeting new people, smacking action figures in front of my face and pretending it was a game of Tekken. But the big thing for me was comprehension. I had trouble understanding instructions, and even now I have issues comprehending things that people tell me, or picking up on social cues. More often than not, this has led to me making some extremely stupid mistake that no one in their right mind would ever make. Sometimes I just feel useless. So yeah, believe me when I say that Owlboy really resonates with me. The Owlboy in question, Otus, is a descendant of an ancient race of humanoid owls, and he's maybe just a little bit useless sometimes. His mentor, Arcio, regularly scolds him for being such a terrible owl. He has trouble flying at first and causes a lot of headaches for the people in his village to the point where he gains a bit of a reputation. The negative student-teacher relationship immediately pulls the player in, and some of you may very well be able to put yourselves into Otus's shoes, or talons, just like I kind of did. And the result is a game that not only grips you almost immediately within minutes of starting, but manages to keep you hooked throughout the entire 8-hour journey. And even if you don't relate with the mute owl you just so happen to be controlling, Owlboy is a beautiful and engaging game regardless. Owlboy was originally released for PC back in 2016 and made its way to Nintendo Switch a little earlier this year, with PS4 and Xbox One versions being available a couple days ago actually. Wow, look at me being relevant. Unlike most games of the platformer/Metroidvania genre, Otus isn't limited by pesky gravity. Instead, he can take to the skies by simply giving the jump button another tap. This change from being rooted to the ground to being able to fly around at will had me a little concerned at first. I wasn't really sure how much mileage the game could get out of it, but damn, they proved me wrong. Owlboy's dungeon design is nothing short of amazing. It feels similar to some Mario or Zelda games of the past in that you're introduced to a new mechanic in a stress-free environment before using this new mechanic in more dangerous situations where failure can mean death or resetting the puzzle back to the beginning. It's handled masterfully, and every puzzle you come across is perfectly paced. There are some tough ones in there somewhere, but you'll rarely spend a long time on any of the game's puzzles because Owlboy is so good at conveying information naturally through progression rather than on-screen tutorials. There's one part about a third of the way through where you have to sneak aboard a pirate airship without being seen. The game perfectly and simply conveys how to sneak past enemies by having you walk past the crate in the foreground, which, as you'll notice, obscures you from view. Wow, what a concept, huh? Like, I know this shit sounds super simple to most people, but you'd be surprised how many games just aren't very good at conveying such simple information to the player. Owlboy is amazing at doing that. And yeah, there are forced stealth sections, but they are actually a lot of fun. Don't you worry your pretty little head. Owlboy ain't no slouch in the combat department either. Because you're flying around 95% of the time, combat feels somewhat similar to a twin-stick shooter, such as Geometry Wars, by using the right stick to aim and ZR to shoot. He can spin, which stuns enemies or leaves them vulnerable for an actual attack, or pick up, carry, and throw things with ZL. By carrying a companion, however, Otus is suddenly a lot more formidable. You'll default to Getty a lot because his general-purpose pistol is good for clearing out pretty much any enemy, but you'll also get help from other characters, some temporary companions and others permanent fixtures in your party. The combat is simple, the moves available to you few in number, but there are a lot of different and interesting opportunities to make use of your friends, both in and out of combat. Boss encounters are plentiful and challenging as well, never frustratingly so, but even if you die, checkpoints are very generous, so there's never a fear of losing too much progress before a tough fight. It took some getting used to the controls, to be honest. ZL grabs and drops things, ZR throws things or fires the weapon of whoever you're carrying, Y spins but also dismisses your companion, and X summons them again, which is admittedly useful because you don't have to go back and find them whenever you leave them somewhere. I have absolutely no idea why, but I just kept getting the controls confused sometimes. You get used to them of course, but there are those initial what the fuck, I'm pressing the right button, why isn't this stupid owl doing what I'm telling him, oh wait, I'm pressing the wrong fucking button moments. And don't comment, it's because you have autism you idiot, you even said so yourself. Get those weak ass roasts out of here. Either way, if you're playing the Switch version like I am, the controls work fine, but because you're often swapping very quickly between the face buttons and the right stick, it ends up making your hand cramp a little, so I'd suggest using a Pro controller or grabbing the PS4 or Xbox One version if you have big boy hands like me. Otus controls satisfyingly for the most part, but sometimes his controls feel a bit loose. Especially while traveling through Strato, I tended to run into thorny vines a lot because Otus always felt like he gained a bit of acceleration whenever he changed direction, so he ended up flying further than I intended. It's not a huge issue in most places, but it was fairly evident here. I mean, other than that though, my issues with Owlboy were pretty minor. Whenever I returned to Otus's home village, I would always get lost. The game's lack of a map is fine by me, but whenever I needed to find my way around Valley, however you pronounce it, and 1 or 2 other open-ended areas, I found myself grinding against the edge of the map and ducking in and out of doors and areas until I found where I was supposed to go. Also, if you happen to drop your ally near a restorative food item, your ally will always take precedence with the grab button, so you have to pick him up and throw him against the fucking wall and teach him a lesson before you can hook in. It's what he gets for wearing such a dumb hat. And the last one, some of the screen shaking and cutscenes in particular is a little over the top. I came out feeling a little nauseous after a couple of them, but I doubt this would affect too many people. It's a fairly minor issue. These relatively small issues I have do absolutely nothing to ruin my enjoyment of the game though, and thanks to a straightforward but gripping plot with minimal terminology and focus on the characters, the game pretty much begged me to keep playing. These story beats are accentuated by the masterful sprite work and high definition pixel art, and scenes are so much better for it. Every character feels distinct, and despite not having voice acting, I feel like I could work out the personality of each NPC by simply looking at them in their animations. The locations themselves are beautiful, simply put. I'm glad there's an option to remove the HUD because some of these areas are wallpaper worthy. Sorry Reg, you've been replaced. At least until I find a good wallpaper with Nanachi in it. And these poignant scenes and wondrous landscapes are backed up by this sweeping orchestral score that is surprisingly memorable. It's a soundtrack that feels like it was composed for a much bigger game than itself. I'm gonna stop here because if I continue any further I'll start gushing about stuff near the end of the game, and I really don't want to spoil it because Owlboy is a game that deserves to be experienced. Did I mention that Owlboy spent 10 years in development? Yeah, somehow D-Pad Studios spent 10 years working on this game, going through several do-overs and core design changes to become the game it is today. I don't know whether the devs consider the 10 years they spent worth it, but man, I love this game. I'm so glad they stuck to their guns. A decade in the making has afforded Owlboy an amount of polish that games these days just simply don't have. From the design of its locales that constantly introduce new things to, well, just the fact that I didn't have to contend with a day one patch, or really any bugs or glitches of any sort. Owlboy is a beautiful, polished and challenging game made with love and passion with a protagonist I just want to hug and tell him everything's gonna be okay. Please buy Owlboy. If you don't, I'll kill ya.